Welcome to Men, Sex, and Tantra.
Discover what your parents, porn, and religion never taught you about being a man and having extraordinary sex. Get ready to have your mind blown and your world rocked. Hello, 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 fabulous people. Guess what? It's been a long time. Well, it's been a long time if you're a first-time follower, like you've been following this since the inception. You're like, what happened? People are emailing me. I'm crying a river now. You haven't been on for I don't know how long. So, apologies if this break was distressing to you. Sometimes other things come up and I go off into other projects, but you're never far from my head, mind, heart, wherever it is you want to put me. Wait, no, put you? That's probably not even the appropriate thing to say on a show called Men, Sex, and Tantra. As you can tell, I'm feeling a little sassy today. I have had too much caffeine, which I don't usually drink, so this could be interesting. So we're back, and I have a new guest with me, and we're looking forward to talking about all sorts of interesting things. You're going to have to stay tuned and see what we're up to. But I'm going to say hello to Strider and let him say a few things about himself. So hello, Strider.
Hello, Tanya. Your energy is just coming through my headphones and my microphone, and I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. Yeah, my name is Strider John Peterson. I live in San Francisco. I'm 60-something years young, and I am a life coach primarily for men. However, I also am developing programs for women as well. And I'm playing off of the great experience that I've had in my men's work, in my coaching, and filling what I believe to be a gap, which is in the realm of sexuality and erotic energy. So those are the things that we're going to be talking about today.
Surprise, given the men's sex and tantra.
How about that? Yeah, you came to me, girl. Yeah.
We're going to talk about what?
I was just standing there and she came up and said, "You look like a men's sex coach." She was right.
Yeah, that's how that happened.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I probably
We're winking at each other.
Probably the people that listen wonder, like, how in the world, where does Tanya come up with these guys? I just troll, I wander around the streets, I just walk around and looking for men that look like they might want to talk about sex. Yeah, that's how that works.
Well, I hope you think you got lucky with me.
Well, one would say I always get lucky, but yeah, this will be
right.
You're already fitting in perfectly. No innuendos flying everywhere. That's awesome.
None
Awesome sauce.
whatsoever.
Right, exactly. All right, so I was interested in having you as a guest. One because age, because sometimes it's like we as a society are kind of like, whoa, what do us older people have to contribute? I'm coughing because a lot of, I don't know if you guys, most of my listeners know I'm 62. So I think the thing is, when we have a whole different age groups that I talk to and bring on with guests, and I've got a whole huge different age groups everywhere from like 18. I think my oldest guest was, or my oldest listener is 80 something years old. And I love that. And so I like to present a variety of viewpoints on a variety of different things, age groups, everything else. So, and then not only that, but you are, I knew right away when I met you and the whole Strider, like I knew Strider was not your given name, but some type of spiritual name. Now, one of the things you said to me that you didn't say right now that I think is really incredibly interesting was when you said, let me see if I get this right, that you had been or came from a pagan community in the Midwest.
Yes.
Is that like, I'm sorry, pagan community Midwest just doesn't seem to go together.
They exist. They exist, Tanya, and it's a really lively community. Would you like, can I spill details here? Is it
sure, yeah. And
sure. So
tell us what pagan means, first of all, because
okay. Well, we went through this when we were talking about Tantra, and I think that the correct term is neo-pagan. I mean, without too much background knowledge, to me, pagan refers to, for example, the Romans worshipped their pantheon, the Greeks worshipped their pantheon, the Egyptians had theirs, the Norse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
neo-pagans, we're at the smorgasbord. We have this buffet table full of gods, goddesses, spirits, energy forces that we can relate to. Um, my having come from originally was a preacher's kid and fought my way out of that milieu. Uh, I worship things that I can see and touch and feel and sense with my five, six, seven senses.
8, 10.
Um, and so and so I've always been a bit of I mean, I was an astronomy buff as a little kid. I was always aware of where the moon phases, for example, and just so that uh, so there's this link to astrology, and so yeah, so I'm at the buffet table with I'm one of those guys with a great big plate stacked high of all these wisdom wisdom keepers from all over the place. And the organization that we're referring to is Circle Sanctuary. They're located outside of Madison, Wisconsin, and they are an official pagan church. And they have been organizing pagan spirit gathering for over 40 years.
Love that.
And that's been a solstice, a week-long solstice festival that's had the first one I went to in 2014 had over 1,000 attendees. It's really tough to find sites that can handle
Yeah.
crowds like that on a budget. So, and plus the pandemic really reduced the attendance. And now we have a site in Missouri that we go to that has some great advantages and also some great disadvantages. But it's a miracle that this event comes off every year. And my intention is to here we're talking in February 2024. My intention is to go again this year. It'll be my ninth
It's like
PSG.
it's like the Burning Man of paganism.
A little bit. There's a lot more. Well, believe me, there's a lot more fire than. I mean, here I am. I'm a East Coaster, Midwesterner, uh, transplanted to the West Coast, where fire has to be treated with way more respect than it is in places where you don't have raging wildfires.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, there people spin fire. That art form is wonderful at PSG. You just don't see that out here so much.
Yeah.
So it has a little bit of a Burning Man flavor. Personally, I'm not really interested in being in a dusty, hot
Yeah.
place for 9 days. Although Burning Man sounds like a heck of a lot of fun. I'm at this moment in my life, I'm content to enjoy it vicariously through others who describe their experiences. So
I'm with you on
anyway,
that.
and the Strider was that was gifted to me in a festival several years ago because I'm tall and lanky and I walk fast.
He's striding. He's striding
Look at
all
him
over
go.
the place.
There he goes, kicking up the
Awesome.
dust.
Awesome. Well, thanks for a little bit of a moment into paganism, because sometimes I think people hear pagan and they think Satan, versus nature, which could be true too. I mean, neo-paganism, just like neo-tantra, could have a lot of different meanings and pieces in there. But I like
That's
bringing,
right. It's a big umbrella.
yeah, I like bringing in little bits of interest and people letting kind of know where you're coming from. But astronomy, moon phases, pastor's kid, yeah, lots of stuff happening. All right, so one of the things we talked about when we were coming up with like what are we going to speak about was this idea of masculine containment. And everybody knows that listens to me that I like to be very clear about what actually are we saying when we say these words masculine containment, because I can think about, is this putting men in cages? Not so bad. Maybe that could be cool. Is this like, what are we doing? How are we containing the masculine? But let's ask, what do you mean when we
I
talk?
hadn't even thought about it. We could be talking about mass incarceration here, which would be a completely different conversation and one I am not qualified to talk about. So no, that is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is containment offered by the masculine and offered to the feminine, which is on the opposite pole of masculinity on the gender spectrum. So I think I imagine your listeners are are quite familiar with the idea that uh, of yin and yang energy, for example, of yin being the Chinese representation for the feminine, and yang being representative of the masculine, and that these forces, as represented by the Tai Chi symbol, which we see all over the place, like every third person has a tattoo of this.
That's the circle with the black and white.
Circle with the dots, yes,
Yeah.
which shows that there is no light without darkness, there is no heat without cold, that kind of thing. The relationship of opposites, and we can think within a person, in my body and in your body, these energies are in this interplay. So I'm going to talk just about what's happening in the body of an individual, that we're all a balance of these energies. And depending on the type of body you're born into or whatever you're predisposed to be like, you have these energies manifest to different levels. Okay, so that's what's happening within me. Now, what's happening between people is another kind of energetic exchange.
Dynamic.
And dynamic, correct. Yeah. So masculine containment plays on the idea that, first of all, it's silent on the issue of femininity. However, it probably properly should be masculine containment for the feminine.
Okay.
So let's start there. All human life flows through feminine bodies, right?
Yeah.
Flows through, and so that is the source of life. It is also a source of feminine spirit and feminine energy, which is spontaneous. It is intuitive. It is all sorts of things, and it's related to the element of water, and that it's very flowing. It changes day to day, whereas the masculine can be seen as a little more rigid and more structured. So containment basically is a reference to the fact that the feminine, in order to do all those magical things that happen, in the case of giving life within the feminine body, requires protection.
Okay.
And so there are a number of cool of images that I draw on when I teach this stuff, and the most two of them that I use all the time, and one of them is the idea of the oyster shell and the pearl inside. This pearl is this miracle. It comes from a grain of sand and turns into this jewel, right? You don't get pearls without the shell. The shell has to be there to contain it. Otherwise, the oyster doesn't live. The sand grain is washed away. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. The magic doesn't happen. And the other image that I like is, and this speaks to this elemental energy, like feminine being like water. You talk about the banks of a river.
Yeah.
And water requiring the banks of the river to be directed and flowing so that it has a purpose. Whereas if that water breaches the banks, it flows all over the place, and that is kind of, and that's a state of being that's been described to me by many women as being really unsettling, because they're feeling feeling unstructured and undirected. And it's not a good feeling. So basically that's it. Masculine containment is a male-ish structure that surrounds the feminine. And I use that word male-ish because it's not necessarily men giving it to women. It's the masculine giving it to the feminine, because it can work both ways. And there are instances where, for example, a man may feel in a moment pretty vulnerable and he needs some support and protection. And that's when he's asking, I need to be babied tonight.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that's a gift. So masculine containment is a gift from the masculine to the feminine.
So, and there's been tons of debates. I'm known for this major big debate on YouTube with Zach Rody, who was this guy who was all about the masculine leads, masculine don't learn from the feminine. And, he was making this a man-woman thing. And his take on this wasn't, it was a gift. His take on this was men make all the decisions and women bow to that because they need that. And this is not what I hear you talking about. So what I take away from what you're saying is that, and I like the oyster, the oyster. I like that a lot, the pearl and the oyster, is that in all of us, we have masculine and feminine energies. I love to balance both of mine. People say, oh, you're so masculine. In a relationship, I'm like that blushing 16-year-old girl that disarms the men because they're like, dude, what's going on with you right now?
Yep.
In the face of a man who can stand in his masculine, I don't need to go there. So that's containment, right? In a sense, it's like I'm holding this masculine space so your masculine can settle down. You can
and it's
go of that.
I think it's also important to know that as a person occupying a male body, I have more access to that. It's closer to the surface, or maybe it's a well that's a little bit deeper. I don't know how you want to picture it, but
well, in societal programming, I mean, there's so many layers to that, right? Hormonal, societal programming, right? More access. So there's also more taught and expectations of that.
Yes. And I think it's also significant that women who have entered into the working world have entered into male-dominated professions, and even non-male dominated professions there's a component of just showing up for work that's very yang. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's very consistent. You got to be on the clock, that kind of thing. So it's and women have proven beyond any doubt that they can do that. That they have that access to that energy.
Yeah.
And when they notice a lack of it, for example, a woman carrying a child who is not being supported, she'll find it. She'll find it within herself, or she will find it somewhere, because her instincts are to protect this life growing inside her.
Right.
And she'll do anything to protect that.
So then, all right, so we understand masculine containment in this context is talking about the masculine energy protection of the feminine energy, and whether that comes from a man to a woman, or woman to a man, or woman to the child, or whatever it is, that's we're talking about the containment. So do you think that this is something that's missing or out of balance, or like what? So when you're teaching or talking about this, what is the thing that to note today with this idea?
Well, I think there is a lack of it because one I'm going to pick on just one particular aspect of it, which is I think a lot of men distrust their positive or divine masculinity. And I know that because I was one of those guys. And it's taken me years, and it's taken me a painful divorce to come to terms with that, and also see the light in terms of, hey, being a man is a good thing. I mean, yes, there is a shadow side to masculinity. Obviously, I have the capability of doing great harm by occupying a male body. However, that shadow. The gold of masculinity is that it is protective, it is nurturing, it is life affirming and life giving in that sense. So and when I teach this, I think that, I mean, I can't get into the heads of all of my students, but I think the aha comes when they realize, aha, so this is a this feels like a kind of a caveman tactic. it feels like I'm the one with the spear on the barricade protecting the tribe. And honestly, yes, that's what it is. Because this is how our bodies and our species came to dominate the planet. The fact that we are very tribal and we're very social and we have um, uh, we have roles. Okay. Now,
Did you
I'm
just
not here to
say that?
dispute roles.
Wait,
I'm not.
did
Yeah,
can we say that? Like is that
I
okay to
just
say
did, Tanya.
trolls?
Dang it. Let me continue because, and before I get blasted for trying to pull us back into previous centuries, this is not what I'm talking about because we are in a brave new world. We are in a world where women have asserted their right to the things that were previously reserved for men.
Yeah.
Education, career opportunities, athletics,
Right.
the list goes on and on. And they've proven it. And the battle is not won. I am a supporter of that battle. Yet what has so I think this is another aspect. Thank you for leading me down this road. Is that in the work towards achieving equality, for example, in the workplace, there is this, and it's natural. There's a impulse to think of men and women being the same. They should have the same rights. They should have equal pay in the workplace. However, male energy is different from female energy. We are not the same that way. And I think we are smart enough to hold those two concepts in our heads at the same time.
I think you might be stretching. I love your optimism.
When I say we, you can interpret that any way you want. I'll start with just the two of us sitting here.
So
We got this, but I think I want to encourage your listeners to try that.
Yeah.
To try to keep those two ideas in their head at the same time. That we can strive for equality in opportunity, in education, yet at the same time not forget the fact that my the gifts that I can offer as a person within a male body are different from the gifts of a person who occupies a female body. And those aren't going to change. Who knows? Maybe in some wonderful day in our lifetime still, a bell will ring and we'll say, we now have perfect equality in society.
There's no
across the board.
Nature is my teacher. And so like it is. And in nature, there's no such thing as perfect straight line balance of anything.
Correct.
So it's not supposed to be that way. We're not going to like defy the laws of nature and create this harmonious, like complete straight line of balance. It's not possible.
No, you're right. Yeah,
nor
you're not.
would it
You're
be
not.
nor would it be desirable, actually.
Who wants that?
Right.
Yeah, we want the messy.
Texture is the beauty of life. I mean, texture is why we love nature. Texture is why we see beauty and inspiration in things. So and today's Valentine's Day, by the way. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, it is. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
And so I, as a strong woman who used to be a kick-ass martial artist, whatever, most men be scared to find me in the middle of a dark alley, have always still wanted male protection. It's kind of an interesting thing. Like the reason that I was so badass was because in my world, the males who protected me were cowardly liars. So even though my dad was imposing, right, he was commanding, he entered a room, people listened to him, he was like the alpha male of the whatever. Secretly though, he was really cowardly. He would not like take responsibility of telling us anything bad. He'd tell my mother, he'd bitch to my mother about problems, and my mother would have to come and give us hell while he looked like the hero because he'd buy us shit and look cool. And I was a daddy's girl forever. And then as I got older, I was like, what the heck is this dude? So I don't think that, so when it comes to like men, because I hear men going, well, yeah, I don't want to protect her. She doesn't let me, I mean, there's that whole kind of thing. And she
Hmm.
won't let me open the freaking door for her anymore. She's like slamming it in my face. I can do it. Whenever there's healing happening, it swings to a hard other side pendulum, right?
Correct.
So in feminism now, I don't agree with how most women are handling stuff. You'd think I'd be the major like front runner of feminism. And yet I really, really don't like what I see happening. Um, I think that no matter how strong a woman is or man is, right, that having support, having that containment when you need it is pretty critical. But I also see a lot of women afraid to accept it because they
Hmm.
feel trapped or obligated by it, and men afraid to give it.
Or they,
because-
well, or they have no experience with it.
Well, there you go. So the first time I had a man protect me, like that was actually accountable. So here's what part of protection is for me in containment: integrity.
Hmm.
It's not just a physical protection, but how to protect somebody's heart, how to protect somebody's emotions, how to protect somebody's when they're, like you said, weak or feeling weak or not that. So this idea of protection, I think, needs that examination, needs that understanding of what you're protecting. Because my big super last relationship, alpha male guy, he thought he was protecting, and what he was doing, causing more drama. I was talking to a woman in our apartment complex who was yelling and talking about calling the police. And all of a sudden I see him come down. He was very opposing. He looked like Johnny Depp, but at 6'4",
Hmm.
very opposing. Like the face, he'd look like, when he had that look, he'd look like a Colombian drug lord that's about to take you out, right? He comes walking down the park and he's striding down the parking lot. I'm like, whoa, whoa, I'm jumping in. Here the cops are showing up. I know what the cops are going to do with him because he looks freaking scary in that kind of space where nobody's going to fuck with my woman. And I'm trying to, so I get jump in between him and the cops. And I'm like, okay, let's settle down.
Hmm.
So in his world, protection didn't have a regulatory, there wasn't like a mechanism that said, and the cop said it perfectly. He said, sir, you need to step back. He said, I
Hmm.
need you to see what we're looking at. You have two women right here that are talking, right? That seem to be in some kind of tussle here. And he goes, you may not realize how scary you look.
Hmm.
You are imposing.
Hmm.
And this imposingness is causing a lot of this drama that's happening.
Yeah. And that's not containment, that's interference.
Right. And so, but who's teaching what protection containment looks like? We're seeing it like, God forbid you think it's porn, or this idea of the media, or this guys that beat up everybody that looks at his woman wrong, or like this kind of stuff's gone crazy. So
Hmm. Hmm.
where do we, and this is where I'm going to lead guys like to their how-to later in a little while, right?
Hmm. Okay.
How then does masculine energy identify as being healthy containment versus interference?
Yeah, because I was thinking that scenario, picturing it, and wishing that your partner, your boyfriend, had just uh, held a safe distance and just stood there and holding space uh, without knowing that any further intervention is interference.
Another dynamic, inserting another dynamic into a situation
Yes,
already that's
yeah, and you did mention something I do want to talk about is that the masculine containment also has a physical aspect to it
mm-hmm,
and also an emotional aspect
yeah.
to it. So you're asking where do we see the
How do we,
difference?
yeah, how's a man listening to this show who believes that his protection mechanism, how he's
Hmm.
protecting his woman, is healthy containment or protection? And how does he recognize, like, where is the recognize that, oh, like my guy would have told you that was totally what he should have done, and he should, like,
Hmm.
you know, he was
He was
mad.
ready to he was
He was
ready to whoop
mad
some ass.
at me later. He like lost his freaking shit with me later about not interfering if he's protecting me, which I think is hysterical.
Hmm.
But That's a different story. When I was like, wow, I'm about to keep you from getting arrested, dude. Like, seriously.
Yeah, you should be
Um,
thanking me.
right. So, so men out there, they hear a lot of stuff. They're hearing us talk
Hmm.
about this, and they're told
Hmm.
to be protected. We've separated physical and emotional. So there's both. I think men know a lot about the physical, but not as much about the emotional. And how
Hmm.
can they tell when they're interfering versus holding space or holding that good containment?
Well, it can have a lot to do with the reaction of the people that you're holding the space for.
All right.
If when you're providing good containment, it's very relaxing for the feminine.
Ah, okay.
So there's a physical change that happens in her body. Um, her features will soften. Her voice will go down a notch. It's it's something you can observe in real time.
So her flight or fight reflex relaxes. She feels
Yes,
safer. She feels
yes, yes. Because that is the goal of the feminine,
safer.
right? The goal of the feminine is safety and protection. And so I think, I mean, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of your ex-boyfriend here, and I think he was responding, he was reacting, not
Yes,
responding.
very much so.
And he was reacting in the way that he's been conditioned to do, which is see threat, kick the threat's ass.
Right.
Uh, and I don't know if there is a secret sauce or pill or something that I can feed to your listeners that says, do this, and now you will stop
Well,
not providing proper containment.
I
It's a
think you did.
process because first of all, the the ability to respond to a stimulus, especially one that appears threatening, versus to objectively uh, uh, or the ability to respond versus reacting to something.
Hmm.
The reaction is a fast brain. That's the reptilian brain response. Um, that is allowing your emotions to run the show.
Yeah. And that's not
So
safe.
that's not safe. No. And so
Yeah.
when I coach people, one of the first things I ask them is, do you have a meditation practice?
Hmm.
Are you are you quiet for 20 minutes a day, in which time you can observe your thoughts passing in front of you? And you will eventually reach a state of equanimity where you can say, oh, this is me being angry, or this is me being frustrated. And then you take it a step further and you start to feel those emotions in your body. Um, rather than saying, than being an angry person in a
Hmm.
moment or a frustrated person in a moment. So uh, to me, it boils down to your work, right? Your self-improvement efforts. Uh, and so I think the number one thing is to realize, hey, you're not broken. You're not, you have gifts that are going to be appreciated in the right place, in the right time. There are very few instances in the modern world where the fighter is called upon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Um, so yeah, I wish I could have said step one, step two, step
Well,
three.
you kind of did.
Oh,
I
did
mean,
I?
yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Am
So
I better? Am I better at this than I thought I was?
I think so.
Wow.
So I think because what I heard
I'm
from
growing as we speak here. This is great.
because what I heard is how to recognize if you're in that state of safe, safe containment, if you're creating safety, is number one, how do the people around you respond when you think you're being
Hmm.
protective? If
Hmm.
they're trying to talk you down, if they're trying to tell you to calm down, if they go running for the hills, if they're like running interference, you haven't nailed it.
Yeah, if the cops are showing up because of you,
Yeah, these are not,
yeah.
yeah. If you like some man accidentally rushes by your woman on the street because you weren't like on the right side where you should be or whatever,
Mhm.
and you turn around and got to go kick his ass, you got a problem. That does not feel safe. I just want to tell you, so as a woman, when you
Mhm.
think you're protecting me by going kicking somebody's ass who said nice ass to me or something, I'm
Mhm.
thinking, are you kidding me now? Like, seriously, that does
Right.
not make me feel safe.
Mm.
The other thing you said was reactive versus responsive.
Yeah.
So if you're step two, if you're reacting to everything, as a woman, I feel scared of you.
Yes.
Okay. Now I want men to hear this. I can love you. I can have all these things, but the second you become reactive, my nervous system is scared because I'm wired to be afraid of men reacting.
Mm.
Now, movies will tell you that's not true. We're going to swoon in your arms and all that stuff. And that's if you're really a messed up woman, if your nervous system is dysregulated. So you swoon into men's arms that are like reactive. Yeah, that's not okay. That's just, so don't.
Well, that's a movie, Tanya. That's
I
not, I
know
don't
that's
think
what
that's
I'm
real life.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So response. So, you feel like you need to beat everybody up. You're reacting, not responsive. And you don't have that mechanism of awareness, or, and I'm going to use the word control, but let's use mastery. You don't have awareness of
Mm.
your emotional landscape, and you don't have mastery of it. Because to be safe, a safe man, a protective man who is safe, means that you're kind, means that you have emotional mastery, means that you're not running amok, scaring the crap out of everybody because you think that's like manly.
Mhm.
Those are the pieces. So
I'm going to add one more thing
yes,
is that men are also scared of that energy.
yes, yeah, and we're going to talk about some of that in a coming up episode
Yeah.
for sure. So I heard you say, so let's give the guys one thing. I heard you say meditation, but let's give them one thing to take home to start working towards. First, hopefully they've identified yes or no through this conversation. Wow,
Mhm.
yes. I think I'm a safe man because I'm kicking everybody's ass. All
Right. Leave a
right.
trail, leave a trail of bodies.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Exactly. And everybody's trying to tell you to calm down. You've been told to go to anger management. You like have road rage. Okay, you're not
Yeah.
safe, protective,
You
container.
can't protect your family from a jail cell either. So,
Well,
uh,
that is something I had to tell my ex once when he went with a baseball bat.
mm,
My other exes, I'm like, dude, you're not going to do us any good in jail.
mm.
Just saying. So we
I
know.
hope that's a part of your past, Tanya, not part of your present.
Indeed. Indeed. Yes, I create my own masculine containment at this point. Looking forward to meeting a man who can hold the masculine container, just saying. I'm
Good.
not jaded. But in the meantime, I've got me. So then if you're identifying the other way, so what is the one thing, the first step, because we can't fix everybody in one like episode, but what's the first step that a man can take other than self?
It's a step of self-awareness
Mhm.
and knowing that you have that the protection of physical space, whether it's putting a roof over your partner's head or providing being a breadwinner, things like that. Those are all protective too. Um, I think it comes from an understanding that the what are our basic needs, and I think the basic need of the feminine is safety and protection, and the
Mhm.
basic need of the masculine is to have a purpose
All right.
and understand that your purpose in our biological drive to regenerate our species, to play in the gene pool, uh, that is our contribution. We as men, we provide protection for life to thrive. So, with that understanding, next time you walk out the door, in a subtle way, you're a changed man. Because you're not thinking of yourself as a lot of men lack purpose in this life we live.
So they're not they're not containing themselves even at that point. So there's no self-containment if they're lacking purpose.
Yes, right. And so yeah, haven't even looked at it from that perspective too, but that's good. I like that. Um, so, and it's also the kind of thing you can play around with in a micro way. I kind of like um, in the workplace, or I mean, with people that I'm not intimate with women that I don't even know. I can just kind of experiment with the way I position myself. For example, I'll put yourself between a woman and the door is sort of symbolic that I'm protecting you from things that might come in through the door. It's kind of a little exercise, and that doesn't mean you're guarding the door
I was going to say,
like a
the
behemoth. You're not
impending my
blocking the
way.
door. You're
You're
not
trying.
blocking the door.
Got it.
It's
Don't square off to the door. Turn your shoulders slightly, dudes. If you square off to the door in front of me,
No, that's not what I'm talking about. No, and I knew I was heading down a potential problem when my mind went down this track, but I'm gonna follow it. Damn it, because I trust you're not gonna bury me down in here. So, um,
I got you. I'm content.
okay,
I'm
thank
handling the
you.
containment.
So there's an awareness, and this is a wonderful tool that is it's very much yearned for.
Yeah, on both sides.
For both sides. Men want the purpose and the women want the protection.
Yeah.
And so I was having this conversation at our PhD festival last year uh, with a man that I met, and we were just talking about, and I was riffing on this very same concept, and we were sitting in it's kind of a social space, and we're on chairs gathering around and having drinks and everything, just having a good old time. And there was a pocket of women just going off on just the jokes were just riding, and the laughter, and it was fantastic. And I turned to the guy and I said, this is what it's all about. I can sit here for hours and just watch this. This is theater for me.
Right. A pocket of women, that's what they call, like, there's a gaggle of geese, but it's a pocket of women when
yeah. Yes. Yeah. And plus, I mean, I'm hearing the jokes and I'm laughing, so it's right. Feeding my and
the women are laughing, so that means they feel safe.
Exactly. So and yes, this whole festival is a safe container, right? Yeah. But there are many containers within containers, and so and that was just an episode, and he's gotten back to me. He said, since that that just started a thought process with him, and he's been grateful for that. And for me, it was just shooting the breeze at a little happy hour. But it's something that has been tangible for him in his life, and that's what I'm hoping that your listeners come away with too. Is that this doesn't mean we're rewiring every little synapse in our brains. These are subtle changes.
Yeah. Well, I've got some tangibility, guys. So also mine is going to be like a pen and paper kind of mental aspect for you here. So
all right, let's hear it.
Basically, I want you to grab your journal or your pen and paper or whatever you're going to do here. And I want you to write down all the ways you identify as a, let's call it safe masculine container based on what you've just heard, and an unsafe masculine container. So I want you to like write those down, like in which ways, like maybe you're a provider, right? Or you're a guy who is constantly in and out of jobs. You're not, and I'm talking about self-containment too here, right? Because I think the self-containment, I always believe that we start with self. That's where we obviously heal everything. So you can take this from a self-containment part, and you can take it from the, feminine containment, right? Looking at how to be safe for feminine. So I want you to do both, because that means if you can do these, we landed the plane on something that you can really take away. In which ways are you identifying? as that safe container, and which ways for self and for a woman or feminine, and which ways are you not? Because when you can identify those and look at that with honesty, and you know, you guys, I'm all about that deliberate self-honesty, right? One of my TEDx talks was about that. Plug for that. You start really going, all right, here's what I thought, here's what's going on. We know nothing happens without action. And so Strider was saying, so then, you know, you have these, you're looking at them, they're tangible, then become aware of how they are out in the world, right? Are you reactive instead of responsive? Are you on purpose, or are you just floating? What do people react around you? Like, you know, you gave us great cues, Strider. Do women, and that doesn't mean you're just your lover, women in general, do they relax when you're around them? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when you get in an elevator, almost all women are nervous. Every woman's
Mm-hmm.
nervous when they get into an elevator with a man alone. But there are men, when I've walked into the elevator and I feel totally like, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Energetically, he was on it. And I also knew that he would kick ass if anything was going on. He just had he had it down. Later on I met him, but he's this Marine guy. And he's got it, but he had the no reactive, he had the total response, and he created that safety in that elevator containment. And I thought it was pretty brilliant. Now, clearly he had.
So can I ask you a quick question? Was
Yeah.
that strictly nonverbal communication that you got
we didn't
from
say a
him?
word. I walked in, I looked at him, his features were relaxed. There was no tension on his face.
Yeah.
First cue. I stand there, he's breathing relaxed. There's no tension in his body posture.
He's not shifting back and forth from foot to foot.
He's calm. He's there, but his confidence, his bearing was a man who has a purpose. His confidence, his bearing was a man who is confident and contain all of that. So it just exudes. There's no like, you know, as a woman, you know exactly. You don't have to, nobody has to prove it, say it. It's an experience.
And men need to understand that women are way better at picking up body language cues than men are.
Absolutely. Until a man learns, you know, and we can all learn this, but just so men, I want you to contemplate, take those things we've said. We're going to wind this down. But as we know, I've said it a lot, knowledge is in the head, mastery is in the being. So you can take all this knowledge we keep dropping in this show, and unless you're taking action with it and actually implementing it so you're understanding the change, right? It's not going to happen. So don't just keep gathering info and shoving it in your head and thinking you'll get somewhere. You got to actually start doing some of this stuff and creating that mastery in your being. So we're going to come back on the next episode, and we're going to talk about erotic authenticity. And I got a lot of questions about that. So we'll see you on the next, or hear you. You'll hear us. I guess that's the appropriate thing. See you soon.